plugins for Auto-GPT. Plugins allow you to do much cooler stuff, like access Wolfram Alpha, which is just a super powerful mathematical database that is on the internet, and plugin makes it so that your bot isn't Google Chrome searching Wolfram Alpha and then accessing the database, as a web page. It's plugged in, right? Oh wait, plugin. Oh, there's the name. Okay, so it's much better to have it plug in. It's going to run a lot faster. It's going to have access to more machine readable databases. And like I said, we're building a pyramid when we program software, and so plugins are a great foundation, perhaps even the cornerstone. And Wolfram Alpha is going to help me achieve getting some math, science, and economic formula into a Python format, which is my goal for the day. It's why I'm configuring a Wolfram plugin, and found it very difficult. One of the most difficult things I've ever done on programming, and so I'll share how it's done, because you need to read a lot, and it hurts to read a lot on the computer. It's really difficult. Guess what you're going to be reading a lot of? Documentation. You don't like reading? Then you should practice art instead of software, because you're not going to get very far. If there's a file and it says in all caps, readme, open it and read it, because it knows you don't know. The creator of the file knows you don't know what to do, and the software doesn't know what to do. And you got a human brain. Something says readme, you read it, okay? That's my point. And only once you do that will you be better able to configure plugins on Auto-GPT specifically. I've never had to read readme files before this. I've always gotten by just trial and error, but that's bad practice. And in computer science, we like to use best practice, not bad practice, but rather best practice. So the best practice is to read the documentation, and that'll help you a lot. And this is something you're probably not used to, is moving files to the trash, deleting them, editing them, creating them. And I'm talking about when you download a software that has a ton of files, and they're all different suffixes, .jpeg, .png, .yaml, .py, .txt, .rich text file. You're probably not .env, .template. You're not used to creating a plugin configurations.yaml file and then editing that with the syntax somebody told you about. You maybe never did that. I never did that, really. I always just downloaded software and sort of expected it to work. But we're building a pyramid from the ground up, and that's why we're going to be messing with files. And there you go, a little blank thing. Strange. It meant to be nothing, so just ignore that. It was truly nothing, and I'm not starting over. So here's the agenda. This is what you do. You reinstall Auto-GPT. You want it updated, because these plugins file, today's July 13th, these plugins, it's like noon or something, 5 o'clock. These plugin is new, and so you need the newest Auto-GPT file to run it, okay? And then you're going to install Auto-GPT plugins. You do this, through Github, and I guess I could show how to do that in a second. And then you run the program. And if you try to do too much, the program is going to be like, hey, dude, I can't configure your plugin.yaml file. I'm so confused. But if you just reinstall Auto-GPT, install Auto-GPT plugins, run the program, it'll say, you don't have a YAML file, I'll make it for you. It'll create an empty .yaml file, and then you just paste some syntax into there. And what is the syntax? Well, you know what? You're just going to have to wait. And then we're going to read what the syntax is. Okay, so first we're going to look at my plugins.config, plugins_config.yaml, and I'm going to run the test that shows if a plugin is there or not. And then I'm going to show you how to install Auto-GPT plugins. And it's one file that has all the plugins, so you don't have to worry about that. So we're going to look at my plugins config.yaml file, and look at all my desktops. That's how I am working. Okay, so here's my plugins config, and this is the syntax. There's a name of something. Okay, let's have an API, and this API, what it does is it accesses your iPhone, right? So, and this is completely imaginary. This is iPhone.access API. I've been saying for the last second, it's a plugin, not an API. This is the API tools plugin, and then config for for an iPhone, it's not going to be false. It's not going to be an empty set. It's going to have an API. And the API is going to be like your password. And so my iPhone password is this. That's my iPhone password right there. So you're going to need the API, okay? And if you don't have it, you just get it. And obviously this one is imaginary. This is completely imaginary. But I have one that looks like this. It's like Wolf Ram Alpha, right? That's not the actual syntax. It's like wolf_ram_alpha, and then in front of it there's like auto-GPT and stuff like that. But it has a config like this, and you're using their database, and so they want you to pay, or they want to keep track of what you do, and so you need a password for this one. And if you want to do something crazy like access your email or your iPhone or your Wolfram, that's going to take an API key. But otherwise, you just put this empty, right? This says 0, this says null, this says empty, says false, says nothing in here at all. That's what that says. And so API tools, I think it's made by the creators of this software, so why would they? You don't need a password for it, basically. And here's the README. Okay, did you read it? And you go here, allow listed plugins in your env file. Okay, cool. Env file, all the way at the bottom. Copy and paste this thing with all these things. Keep the syntax, that, or the format. That looks good, I think. Name it plugins, and then paste allow listed plugins, and then name it Auto-GPT API tools. That allows this thing to work. And you say, well, how does that work? Well, you're going to read how it works right now. Plugins configure file. This is the path to the file, and the file path for me is volumes 1touch download 000 x apps download 000 Auto-GPT master plugins plugin config.yaml. And look, here we are in plugins config.yaml. If I go here, copy the path and paste it, that's exactly what I just said. Okay, so we did the README, and we think that's great. This allows the Auto-GPT to communicate with the APIs. APIs are like passwords, okay? And, how do we know if it's working? That's my question. And so I'll say, geez, you know what? I downloaded my API tools, and I want to know if it's working. This is the README that we just opened. And so I'll open this. It's a test. Look at it, says test. I'll open this with my Visual Studio Code 1.80, 1.80, and I've already done that because I'm way ahead of you. And here's the test. You know, unless there's an error, it says do this stuff. And how do you test it? Beep. You click the green play icon, and now what? It's running. You see, when this thing is black, that means it's running. And look, green dot. Green means good. That means it worked. And here it doesn't say print anything, so we're not going to get printing anything. But if this came back with a million billion errors and it just said it can't find file, blah blah blah, that's a problem, right? So the Python worked great. That's great. Python tools worked amazing. And next I'm going to work on installing the Wolfram, which should be easy because I can read. I can read well. And I do read. And look, here's, I say the alpha ID, the app ID goes here. Alright, so let's just put this in the plugin config. And here we have the name. You know, you might have to take the name from the readme file. And then we're going to config it. And we're not going to put the empty, but rather we're going to put API. And my API, you know, it's a secret, but it doesn't matter because it gets changed like all the time. All of this is secret. These three things are secret, but they get changed all the time. So copy them if you want. You'll probably just waste your time, or you won't get access. You know, just get your own. Doesn't make sense to try to copy. It's not expensive for anybody. Feel free to copy them. They're free. They're free. Except for the Google Cloud one, but it's cheap, and so it doesn't matter. And the OpenAI one is not cheap. You could spend $30 in 3 days, or less than that if you're good enough. And you know, this might be the correct thing. It might be. And now we have to allow listed plugins in the env. And where do we have it? But here, all the way at the bottom. And yeah, that's great. I'm just gonna go here and save it. Go to the env, save it. Of course, you could just do Command S, but I would like to illustrate to the viewer. And yeah, we're gonna interact directly with Wolfram, and we're gonna use search queries using Wolfram. And this thing spends a lot of time on Chrome sometimes, and so that's good. And yeah, I'm gonna have to get it a zip file, and then get it into the plugins folder of my Auto-GPT. And cool, I'm way ahead of myself, way ahead of you. And so here we are, gonna compress it. And actually, it's funny because Auto-GPT has a couple plugins folder, and I only know this as 2. A couple is 2. I only know this one is correct because it's green, and it's also underneath the yeah, see, this one is not it, or maybe it is, I don't know. Let's take a look. Auto-GPT plugins. This one is not, right? It's not marked. If I mark it red, then I have to throw it in the trash. So I'm not marking it red. But oh yeah, this one needs to get unmarked. See, that's how confusing these file stuff is. And yeah, this is green. So here we are. It told us to do this, told us to do that, so we did it because we read it. add this chunk of code, Wolfram API. Bam. Add this to my env. And you see they keep the thing as well. The syntax. Don't know for certain why we need to put in the app ID, the app ID in twice. But hey, I don't make the rules. And yeah. Okay. Let's try it out. This is good. And use Wolfram. Oh wait, what am I doing? There should be a test. Remember this part? So why would I test it the old-fashioned way when I could test it the new-fashioned way? So let's test it this way. And if it doesn't work, I'm not going to troubleshoot it. No known parent package. What? Well, I'm just gonna learn what this means quickly, and then I'm gonna show you how to install the plugins for Auto-GPT. And you saw I just went into my Finder and I took the Wolfram plugin, which is very important to me, and I took the Wolfram plugins from my Finder. And so I'm going to teach you how to do that while this thing loads up. And so here we are, GitHub, significant gravity, Auto-GPT plugins, okay? Click this box, that'll copy this. You go to your terminal on your MacBook, and you click it, and then you type in GITCLONE, and then you paste it, and that'll download it somewhere on your thing, and you know, you gotta find it, open it, and yeah, the inside of the plugins, Auto-GPT plugins these are all the plugins, so they get marked green because we like them, and that's that. And I'm going to end this video instead of debugging the Wolfram, because it takes, you know, minutes to do, and it's not interesting to watch. So goodbye.